Hello, everybody. I am Luciana, the Emotional Mastery Coach. I am a modern day ordained Buddhist priest, and I teach women how to master their emotions using mindfulness. Now, in this video, I want to talk about emotional coping mechanisms that can be limiting us and how we can change them to more healthier coping mechanisms. So I will invite you to keep on watching. Now, before we begin, if you are choosing to live a more conscious life and you want to learn more about meditation, spirituality, emotional mastery, and how to grow your own conscious-based business, I will invite you to subscribe and hit that little bell button so you can be notified of upcoming videos. So first, I want to begin by mentioning that nobody teaches us how to process our emotions. We live in a society where actually through marketing, through the way that we have been raised, we have been told in many ways not to feel. We have connected emotions to being dramatic. We have really separated emotions when it comes to gender. You know, men should not feel emotions. Men should not cry. And women, they feel too many emotions. They are very dramatic. And this allows us to create a negative stigma around the topic of emotions that will become the foundation of how we subconsciously deal with them. One thing that it's important to know is that every single human being, as the same way that we need oxygen to breathe and we have blood moving through our veins, we experience emotions. Emotions is part of what makes us human. It's the most natural thing that could happen. So it's time to awaken to this concept of how can we learn to consciously process the gift that is our emotions. So one of the most common unhealthy emotional coping mechanisms is to deny our emotions. We subconsciously believe if I deny what I feel, it's not real. Then I don't have to look at it. But there are many ways in how we can deny emotions, and I want to share some of the most common with us. Number one is through literally just denying them, right? You have somebody that really cares about you, that you're close to, that they ask you, hey, how are you doing? And we may respond, oh, I'm fine, right? We know there is something going on emotionally, but what we show to the world outside and what we express verbally is that we are okay. In this way, we are confirming ourselves. I don't have to look at this if I don't tell the world that I am going through it. The number two way, which we all have experienced at some point in life as well, is to self-medicate to numb the emotions. This may be through alcohol, this may be through drugs, this may be through one of the most popular ones, food. So the moment an emotion comes up and we are experiencing that sensation of that emotion and it's affecting whatever is going on mentally and we don't know how to deal with it, we naturally believe, okay, let's just numb it so then I don't have to look at it. And that's when we grab another beer, an extra glass of wine, or we begin to use food to cope. Now, the thing is that maybe most of us have discovered, any of us that have tried this route, that it doesn't really work for a long time. The effects of numbing food through numbing emotions through self-medicating are very temporarily lived. Just at that moment that you are experiencing, either the moment when you're eating that delicious donut or pizza, or the moment that the alcohol stays in your system, you may feel okay, and then the next day, 30 minutes later, whatever the case, it all comes back, and then it even may feel a little bit heavier because now you not only feel the emotions that were there, you may feel guilt as well because of everything else that comes up. And another way that we deny emotions is through blaming. If I feel an emotion and I blame you for it, then it means that I am expecting you to make it better. Now, if I feel an emotion, it may be very easy to lose myself in the story of blaming my significant other, my family, my past, or even blaming myself. If that doesn't work, we're going to blame anything. It can be the government's fault, it can be society's fault, or we can even just focus on blaming God. Staying in that place of blaming, sometimes in very specific scenarios, it's a process of the emotional healing journey. The important thing with blaming is that we don't want to get stuck in that. What I mean about the emotional healing journey, it's that sometimes when I am acknowledged that I feel affected because somebody else acted in a certain way towards me, I temporarily do blame them. Or I internally agree, internally accept, I don't agree with how that person acted. But I don't stop there and just live for years blaming that person, still feeling the pain. If we want to overcome it, one of the important things is to be able to realize, if I continue to blame, I'm waiting for somebody else to make it better. When I stop the blaming, I begin that journey of working on it myself. So as you can see, one of the things that I encourage to people when they begin this journey of wanting to be aware of their emotions is to pay attention. How are you denying what you feel? It could be through any of these things that I mentioned right now. It may be through a different way. I mean, there's probably like unlimited ways of emotional denial, but I want to share with you some things that you can begin to practice to make that emotional coping mechanism a little bit healthier and for it to also feel like a gentle journey, because we don't ever want to make feeling emotions something overwhelming. So the number one thing that I would say would be all about changing our perception towards emotions. Why would you even want to change the way you cope if you consider emotions negative? If you consider emotions negative, you're not going to want to do any kind of emotional work. So that would be the number one thing that I would invite you to do. Begin to transform the way that you perceive emotions. I invite you to see emotions simply as information, even the word emotion, energy in motion, energy in movement. Now that energy, when it comes to emotions, has different flavors. When we're happy, when we're in love, it feels so much lighter. When we're sad, when we're scared, when we're feeling very, very depressed, it feels heavier. Now, if you begin to witness emotions that you live inside and you see other people experience as information or as energy, it feels less personal and it feels easier to manage. Another thing that I would invite you to do is to just begin to pay attention to when do they come up, what triggers them, and like when do they feel more intense in your life. Here, I'm not inviting you to do a full-on, like maybe deep kind of work on them unless you want to, but just the first step, become aware of them. Many people have no idea what triggers their emotions. Only when they get very, very intense is what they go like, oh my God, it's here. I don't like it, right? But what triggers it? Does it start like something small where something happens in your week that you feel a little bit disappointed about and you ignore it, and then later you feel frustrated, and later you feel aggravated, and later you feel angry and explode, and project your pain to your significant other, and then it becomes this whole thing? Imagine how more manageable it is if you would recognize it at the beginning. So that's another thing that I would invite you to do. As you are moving through your day, when you feel a wave of, if you don't even want to call them emotions at the beginning, but a wave of an uncomfortable sensation, it may even feel like pressure on your chest, your mind becoming very negative, pressure on your shoulders or your abdomen. All I would invite you to do is become aware of it and take a deep breath. You can even just say, I'm aware I'm feeling something. Don't try to name it. Don't try to dig into it unless you want to. I'm aware I'm feeling something right now. That in itself will help you be able to pinpoint also when you're feeling okay and when these emotions come up. Because then I have all these people telling me, Luciana, I'm always feeling emotionally overwhelmed, because they don't know how to distinguish between both. And when they start doing this exercise, they realize, you know what? I do have a lot of good moments throughout my day, and it helps you be able to do that. The last thing that I would invite you to do to begin to create just healthier emotional coping mechanisms is to be aware of when you blame. The moment you already catch yourself blaming, it could be anybody, like I mentioned, it could be yourself, it could be your significant other, your family members, society, the government, or even God. The moment you are in the dialogue internally or saying to anybody else, it's their fault. It's her fault. It's his fault. It means you are emotionally affected. It should be like a little bit of like an alarm, like bling, bling, bling. We are feeling something. Now, blaming at the beginning can become a sign to let you know, go within, something is going on. Deep breath, I'm feeling something. I'm emotionally affected. And maybe it may also sound like I don't agree with what happened. And it's okay for you to not agree, but still begin to bring the attention to what you feel. At the key of emotional integration or emotional processing is always beginning to pay attention to the breath. Yes, when we pay attention to the breath, what we are doing is bringing our attention from outside of ourselves, everything going on in this world, to what's going on within, which is the place where you experience emotion. So it's such a simple action, so simple that people underestimate the power of bringing your attention to your breath to acknowledge, I am feeling something. The next step from that is to go within and just begin to feel those sensations in your body and stay there with them without judging them. Yes, that's also a little bit of the hard part at the beginning. Can I really sit here with this sensation of feeling, maybe let's say I'm feeling uneasy. Let's begin there. What if I was feeling uneasy? Like there was a lot of uncertainty. Like I was not sure what was happening next. Like my system and my physical body was tensing up a little bit. And that's all I would describe it as. Before I blame it's the energy of the moon or it's because of what my brother did, I'm feeling something. And I could describe it. Just breathe and describe. I feel uneasiness. I feel this uncertainty. I don't know what's coming on next, either in my life, in the situation I'm going through. And as you stay there, just feeling the emotion, it may be clear, oh, I am feeling fear. I am afraid. And everything within me is trying to not feel it. And maybe that's why I was trying to deny it. And maybe that's why I was abusing food. And maybe that's why I was blaming, in this case, like my brother. And it had nothing to do with any of that. And just being there and teaching your own system, it is safe for me to feel this. It's information. It's energy in motion. It passes. It's not who I am. It helps you process the emotion for you to then feel. And it's one of the most beautiful feelings that I want and I wish for every single person in this world to experience. Accepting and processing an emotion and the freedom that comes afterwards. It's an empowerment like no other. You begin to learn the world doesn't have to have power over me because I'm not resisting experiencing my emotions. Yes? So I really hope that all of this information was helpful. If you have any other tips or you want to share your story, you can let us know in the comments or you can find me on social media at the Emotional Mastery Coach. But this is all I have for you now. I really hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day.